Pogranichnik. Pretty sure I am not saying that right, so from now on, we're just going to call him Pog. Today, I'm going to be not only teaching you how to play Pog, I'm also going to teach you how to play physical teams as a whole because he ties into them. Let's get started. This may disappoint some of you. At his core, Pogranichnik is a character who's made to be more of the sub-DPS or support archetype. While his damage is decent, he's designed to be more of a character who empowers other DPS characters to function better. So for meta's sake, it's better if you do that rather than trying to make him work as a DPS alone. Pog's main role in a team comp is to be an SP generator and buffer. Makes sense, he's a Vanguard after all. That's why every single one of his skills has some form of SP generation. Pog's battle skill causes him to whip enemies in a small AoE. Tell me I'm not the only one envisioning just how much fan service that's going to result in. It also inflicts Breach, a physical status which either applies a stack of vulnerable if the enemy has none, or consumes the enemy's vulnerable stacks, leaving them with the physical susceptibility debuff. Basically, they'll take extra damage from physical attacks for a short period of time. The amount of SP regenerated by Pog's skill increases by the number of vulnerability stacks he consumes off the enemy. The pulverizing front, huh? I'd let Pog pulverize me from the front, you know what I'm saying? Pog's combo skill ties in here too. With the battle skill, not the sex joke. If either Crush or Breach consume vulnerable stacks from an enemy, his combo skill is triggered. Based on the number of vulnerable stacks consumed, his combo skill becomes more effective, dealing both more damage and recovering more SP. What that actually means for Pog's gameplay is that you're going to put 4 vulnerable stacks on an enemy, then consume it with either his skill or another ally's Crush. Pog's ultimate summons 4 dudes, making for 5 beefy men on my screen. Casting the ultimate does some damage and grants Pog 5 stacks of Steel Oath. An enemy is inflicted with a physical status or they take damage from Pog's combo skill, it consumes a stack of Steel Oath. And to quote the game, it launches a dude at them to harass them. Not sure why they'd word it like that. This both deals a small amount of damage and recovers some SP. Once you consume all of the stacks of Steel Oath, you get rewarded by seeing 4 grown men pile drive the life out of whoever you're fighting, dealing big damage and granting you a lot of SP. See, I didn't make a sex joke this time, but I could've. It's also worth mentioning Pog's 2 passives, both of which play into his buffing mechanic, Fervent Morale. Every 80 SP he recovers with his own skills gives him an 8% attack boost and 8 arts intensity, lasting for 20 seconds. This effect can stack up to 3 times. His other passive actually allows him to give Fervent Morale to other operators for 10 seconds. When an operator triggers his ultimate, they gain the buff. Simply put, his kit is this: generate SP, which your teammates use to generate more vulnerable stacks, which in turn helps you generate more SP and also deal more damage. Honestly, once you get used to him, he's a pretty simple character, so maybe I should have just said that and skipped the whole explaining part before it. As a physical status character, Pog is best paired with characters who either benefit from or apply physical status themselves. The list includes Chen, Ember, Depan, Lifang, Administrator, Catcher, Gilberta, and Estella. That doesn't mean I'd recommend using just any combination of these characters, but all these characters can technically work on a team with them. Because Pog himself is more of an enabler rather than a damage healer, team comp should have generally at least 1 damage healer and 1 status generator. Though, in the case of the physical status team we're about to talk about, those roles can often overlap. For status generation, Chen is a great option. She's also given to you for free, and most importantly, she's cute as hell to boot. Why wouldn't you want to use her? Her ability to apply vulnerable with her combo skill, which has a very low cooldown if you have her at P5, gives us free and easy access to more stack generation. While Pog's SP generation is helpful, the physical status team is SP hungry, so any source of vulnerable application that is not tied to SP is extremely welcome. Depan is a great DPS for this team as well. With his skill applying lift and his ultimate applying 2 different sources of vulnerable, he is both a status generator and a DPS character here. Though do keep in mind that his combo skill is reliant on the enemy having 4 stacks and does apply Crush. This does have some anti-synergy with Pog, as both characters will be wanting to consume the vulnerable stacks, in Pog's case to get his ultimate faster, recover some SP, and generate his ultimate, and in Depan's case, to do more damage. If you're playing these 2 together, you'll have to swap back and forth between which one actually gets to consume the vulnerable stacks. Except that's not really an issue when you're using the next character we're about to talk about, Lifang. Lifang is much like Depan, where he's both able to deal good damage and apply many stacks of vulnerable. However, for this comp, he has another appeal. His skill applies physical susceptibility if the enemy has 0 stacks of vulnerable. Simply put, if timed properly, your Pog won't have to consume vulnerable stacks with his skill. allowing Pan to crush his enemies by sitting on them like the fat ass he is. Hey, we love that about him though. While this is the ideal team, you can also mess around with other options and see what works. I do want to point out Administrator specifically though, because I feel like a lot of people are going to try and make Endmin work here. It is true that Endmin does technically have some physical status application. That physical status generation is tied to their skill, something that everyone in your team can already do. Their skill would mainly be used to apply Crush, which you can already get from Depan's combo skill. Maybe if you're not running Depan and you want to apply Crush, you can use Endmin there, but it just simply won't be as effective. The rest of their kit doesn't actually have synergies with this team outside of merely dealing damage. What that means is, while an option, Endmin is not the most viable one you can take. When making a team comp for Pog, always keep in mind that he needs other stack generators for his kit to function. You can get away with only using one, but ideally you'd want two here. If you're enjoying the guide, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more Endfield content. It lets me know to make more of these in the future. Let's actually show you how to play Pog now. For this showcase, I don't actually own Fong in the beta, so we're going to be using Ember instead. Hypergriff, you're always free to set me up with test server access and fix that though. Our goal when playing this team is going to be to get 4 stacks of vulnerable on the enemy, then proc it with either breach or crush, depending on what the enemy has. To do that, we have some simple guidelines to follow. Chen and Ember both apply vulnerable with their combo skills, allowing for 2 free stacks to be generated here that aren't tied to SP. Chen's combo skill is procced by another character applying vulnerable, so using Panda skill is an easy trigger. Embo's combo is procced by us face tanking damage, which, if we're being honest, we were gonna do anyway. With both those combo skills used, and the skill used from Depan, we should have 3 stacks on the enemy, meaning we only need 1 more skill to get the 4th vulnerable stack, allowing us to consume it with either Crush from Depan, or Breach from Pog's battle skill. There are a few things to remember while playing this team. Both Depan and Chen deal more damage to enemies when they're staggered due to their gear. Now, that can't change by launch, as stats are pretty easy to shuffle around, but that really just means to make sure that you do your big burst windows when the enemy is staggered. So basically, just save your ultimates and make sure you use at least one of Depan's crushes inside of that stagger window. Chen's combo skill is on a weird timer compared to most characters, especially if you have her at P5. That'll make it a 13-second cooldown. You're going to want to keep an eye out for her meter in the bottom left corner. That way, you can time the vulnerable application with when her combo skill is coming off cooldown, giving you the stack instantly. If a skill is going to apply the 4th stack of vulnerable and Chen's combo is off cooldown, Depan's combo skill will actually consume the vulnerable first if you end up mashing. The animation goes off fast enough that you won't have to worry about overcapping here, so that's pretty convenient. I'm talking more about the non-Pog characters here than Pog himself, but there's a good reason for that. Arknights Endfield is a team-based game, so the way your team operates and how they actually interact in combat is very important to a character actually functioning. Though there is another reason, that being that Pog's entire kit is based around other characters putting in the work. He's a setup character, made to buff and generate SP. In combat, he's largely watching as he enables the other characters to use their skills and deal all the damage. I think that's a good thing. It makes him feel like the orchestrator of the team in a way. Let's talk how to actually build Pog, and honestly, it's kinda weird. His main stat is Will, and as a Will character, there are only 2 swords that grant him this main stat. Both of them are, unfortunately, a 6-star weapon. Luckily, both of these weapons are actually good for him. His signature Never Rest is the best option. It gives Will, attack percent, and physical damage dealt for stats. When you recover SP with your skills, you gain more physical damage dealt, and your teammates gain half that amount for 30 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. This is obviously a very strong effect for a buffing character like Pog, but it becomes even more broken once you understand his set effects that we'll talk about in a second. His secondary option is another 6-star weapon called Thermite Cutter. It gives will and attack percent. After recovering SP, you give your team attack percent for 20 seconds, up to 2 stacks. On its face, it seems like an only slightly weaker version than his signature, but once we start talking about gear, you'll understand why the gap is bigger than it seems. External Shiranite. When the wearer applies Imp, Protected, Susceptible, or Weakened, other teammates also gain 16% attack for 15 seconds. If you're reading this and thinking to yourself, wait, you didn't explain any of those things existing in his kit, I'm not seeing the synergy. Well, you're not wrong. The buff that comes from Never Rest, however, the physical damage increase for the entire team, counts as amp, meaning you can proc this set if you have a signature weapon. If you don't have a signature, the options start looking much worse. Frontiers should be nice on its face, as it both reduces your combo skill cooldown and grants the team damage upon restoring SP. The only problem is, none of the gear here actually has will in it, meaning you're losing a ton of stats just for this set effect. And outside of that, it's only damage sets. With Pog not being a large part of the team comp's damage, pick your poison there, I guess. Hopefully, that taught you how to play Pogranichnik and physical damage teams as a whole just a little bit better. Make sure to check out my late Botane guide right here, and subscribe to see more Enfield concepts in the future.